Yeah. Um, I don't know what happened before, but I tried to do a uh, memoriam for Bob Sylvester, Robert Sylvester. Bob was the uh, chief of security slash chief of the Unity College campus police department. Bob was quite a character, very colorful, and I could write a book about him. He served in the U.S. Army. He spent a great deal of time at Fort Bliss. Uh, he worked in the missiles section. When he came home, he went to work uh, as a deputy sheriff. He worked part time as a deputy sheriff, but he also served the Criminal Justice Academy as a weapons instructor, weapons training, and was very, very good. In fact, let me tell you a little bit about how good he was. Bob practiced target practicing, could hit a dime at 12 feet and not stray outside the dime. 6 shots, 12 shots, 24 shots, all of them. He was perfect with a revolver. In fact, one day, while he was chief of security, the chief of the campus police department, he would quite often take conservation law enforcement students out to his house out in Freedom in the backwoods. And he was walking to the hunting camp, and he had two young fellows with him. Both were uh, reserve Marines. This was before Desert Storm, not long before Desert Storm, but anyway, the story goes like this. They were walking down the path, the road to the camp from Bob's house, and Partridge took flight and was off to the left, and the two boys were to Bob's right. Bob drew his revolver without bringing it up to sight, just hip shot and blew the thing's head off in flight. And the two boys were so stunned, so flabbergasted, that they told everybody, that anybody, just what a good shot Bob was. Now, Bob was a fantastic shot. He really was quite amazing. He was ultra conservative, hippie hating, fag hating, you name it. Bob was redneck, 100% redneck country boy. And on the campus, the majority of the professors were ultra liberal. In fact, the dean of students was a lesbian, and they had a couple of, I won't say animosity, but they had, it wasn't comfortable. So, it was interesting watching the dynamics between the two. And for myself, I went to work there, I think it was 88 or 89. And I got the job, I left McDonald's, and I got the job by telling Bob that I was the swing manager at McDonald's in Bucksport, and my specialty was security, store security. And I read the manual. I was rip roaring, raring to go. And they were paying me uh, $4 and something an hour, like $4.50 maybe. So when 525 came up at Unity College for a campus police department, I jumped on it, and Bob hired me. And quite frequently, Bob would pay compliments. He would tell me that he wished he had a couple more guys like me. And he said if he ever had any trouble at the campus bar, that he would send me and John Groton, who was equally as big as me. He said, "Yeah, I'll send you guys in as my bulldozers and clear the path," which, to me was quite humorous because Groton was almost 70 and I was 285 pounds or 300 pounds and green. But Bob got me a job part-time with Waldo County Sheriff's Department. 1990, John Ford left the warden service, retired, and immediately he went to work, got elected as the Waldo County Sheriff. And I wrote letters to the local newspapers, Kennebec, Bangor, Waldo County, all the papers around, in support of John Ford. And because of that, out of appreciation, John appointed me and had me sworn in as a part-time deputy sheriff, which I was glad to do. John was a good guy. He really was an honorable law enforcement officer. He wasn't one of those guys that, you think, jackboot, Nazi kind of guy. If John had to arrest you when you got out of jail the next day or got out on bail, he would sit down at the local restaurant if you walked in, and he would buy you a cup of coffee. Just no hard feelings, no animosity. He didn't harass people. He didn't hold a grudge, and he hoped to hell you didn't either. And Bob was an interesting man because he had, I don't know, probably 50, 60 rifles. He probably had 20 shotguns, varying types, pumps and so forth. But his thing was pistols. He really loved pistols. His favorite carry was a 44 Magnum. I think it was a Super Blackhawk. One day I stepped into the door of his office and he was sitting behind the desk. He wasn't a very big guy. And I said, "Bob, how fast are you?" But before I could get fast out of my mouth, he had drawn the pistol and laid it on the desk. That was impressive. I mean, it's hard enough to draw when you're standing straight up, but when you're sitting down behind a desk with the chair pulled up into the desk cubby, that's impressive. Bob died of leukemia, and when he died, the procession of county deputies, state police, game wardens, all of the people in law enforcement, I would say at least a quarter of the state showed up to his service. I loved Bob. I miss him. And even though, he was the epitome of redneck, he was a hell of a guy. I love you, Bob.